Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, as always, please make sure you subscribe. All of that good stuff. Theo, how you doing? First of all,
I'm good, very good. Unlike you, I'm wearing a short sleeve t-shirt on this quite chilly January Friday. Been enjoying a lot of the Australian Open this morning,
yeah,
men's semi-finals. I think it went to 5 sets with Alcaraz and Zverev. I just saw that Djokovic is doing quite well in the second set, so I'll definitely make sure to watch the remainder of that match during my lunch break. But yeah, enjoyed Wednesday's victory in Naples and looking forward to some Premier League action this weekend. But how are you doing?
cold, cold. No, but no, I'm good. I'm good. It is cold up north. It's very very cold. Not raining, which is good. But yeah, like yourself, I'm gonna give everyone the Game of Thrones update. I'm in season 6, episode 6, I think. So I'm at the I'm at the good parts, I think, but it's going well. I'm enjoying it. Like enjoying the football in between. So it's always good to talk football. But it's Friday. It's Friday. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode. There's a lot to unpick. Cole Palmer, Raheem Sterling, Aaron Anselmino. But let's start with Napoli versus Chelsea. A game which didn't look like we were going to get the win. We did. We're into the last 16, top 8, finished 6 in the Champions League. Um, at 2-1 Theo, I mean, it was a difficult period in that first half in spells, but 2-1 down going in at half time. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I was expecting the worst. I mean, us as Chelsea fans, we know what it's like, you know, playing a Conte team. We had him as our manager,
Mm,
and often Conte, when you take a lead, you often kind of protect that lead. And when they went 2-1 up, especially at the beginning of that second half, they were so compact defensively as a unit. They were so well organized. And more often than not, when Conte takes the lead, he doesn't really give it away. And they have a really good home record. I mean, it was always going to be a tall order going to Naples and getting a win. I think you shared that statistic with me. It's Napoli were unbeaten at home since the 8th of December 2024 when they lost to Lazio.
mm.
So it's almost been like over a year now that they've been unbeaten in the Estadio Diego Armando. That being said, Conte does struggle in Europe, not just with Napoli. I mean, his position in the league table indicates that he hasn't been getting the best results with Naples. Lost quite badly to Man City, got a draw against Copenhagen last week. So for them, it was definitely a do or die. Whereas for us, at least we had a playoff spot guaranteed. Happy to were 2-1 down with those goals from Vergara and Rasmus Højlund. I was thinking to myself, here we go again. And if we don't score soon, it's going to be a very, very difficult game. And maybe if we're lucky, we can maybe get a draw, but a win was
Mm.
going to be very difficult. But luckily, unlike some other games that we've seen in recent weeks, we were fairly clinical in front of goal. We took our chances. We looked more comfortable without fully dominating possession. We attacked with purpose instead of just recycling the ball at times, and we took our chance as well. I mean, Joao Pedro, I think he's been definitely seems a lot more rejuvenated under Liam Rosenior and kind of rediscovering that summer Club World Cup form, particularly that first goal of his where he just shot it from far. I want to be seeing more of that, not just from Joao Pedro, but the likes of Pedro Neto, Garnacho, Liam Delap as well. If you get a chance, do shoot, I
Yeah.
think. And we have to remember Napoli had so many injuries. I think it was their second choice keeper meriting goal instead of Milinkovic Savic. There were a lot of other players that missed out. Billy Gilmore, Kevin De Bruyne. So yeah, we needed to kind of take the game to Napoli, and then the breakaway in for the third goal was brilliant. Really good pass from Palmer again. I think he was kind of instrumental without fully being instrumental because
Yeah.
usually Palmer was so used to seeing him get the goals, deliver the ball from a good cross. But in this case, it was just an easy pass that
Mm.
just cut through the defense and set Joao Pedro free. But yeah, really, really pleased with the performance, and that secures us sixth place now in the top 8 of the Champions League, which means we don't have to play those playoff games end of February. So no more midweek football for quite a bit, I think, after the
Mm.
Arsenal game on midweek next week. But yeah, really, really pleased with the performance, and hope that all the Chelsea fans that travelled out to Naples enjoyed it too, because I know there was a bit of a
Bit of trouble.
tragedy and some trouble that happened the night before. And hopefully there was nothing bad around the stadium. I know me as a Chelsea fan that's been to a lot of these away games. Usually the club does kind of organise kind of almost police escort buses to and from the stadium. which means that a lot of time you don't actually end up seeing any of the home fans or the rival fans in and around the stadium. But yeah, really good performance. And again, like, just go back to your question, what did I think when we went 2-1 down? I was thinking to myself, why did we not get that win in Baku? Why did we not get that win in Atalanta?
Yeah.
But yeah, luckily we managed to kind of turn things around, and we finished in a very respectful sixth position.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think we. I mean, I was watching the game and I was thinking we have to credit to an extent Enzo Maresca because I think obviously some of the work he did early in the season got us into a position where we are finishing in the top eight. But I also think we got to credit Liam Rosenior because I think his in-game management and his tactics in that game was spot on. I did question the Gittins substitution at the time. I would have brought on Garnacho, but I thought Cole Palmer coming in, the penalty was brilliant by Enzo. You could see what it meant to him in the first half, and the two goals I think were avoidable for Napoli. I think we defensively could have done a lot better. Fofana for me, and both of those, you got to question mark him a little bit. But I think in that second half, seeing Cole Palmer come in, and look, I was one of these fans that said I don't want to see Cole Palmer playing. If he's not fully fit, don't play him. Don't bring him into a team. But he come in, and I feel like with Cole Palmer sometimes less is more. Like sometimes, like you just said, he doesn't always have to be scoring the goals or creating this. Or well, grabbing the goals. He did create the assist in this occasion, but sometimes it's just the simplicity side of him. The things that he just does, and that little pass through to Joao Pedro for the goal. That's kind of what we need from him. I think he kind of just needs to press a bit of a reset on his time at Chelsea. But it was brilliant to see. It was brilliant to see Joao Pedro. I think that's now is that six goals in last 4 games under Liam Rosenior. So he's showing some form. He's showing form that will hopefully progress this team going forward. Because I look at the performance, and I think even we got credited Sanchez yesterday on the
Mm.
match review because I mean that Lukaku chance at the end. I mean, if that goes in, it's literally a completely different scenario that we're talking about, and we're talking about playoff games. Who have we got in those two-legged ties? So Sanchez, I think, kept us in the game to some degree as well. But look, I mean, this is a crucial moment for Liam Rosenior because as much as it's great that you've gone and beaten a team that's been unbeaten, for since 2004 December. I said it yesterday. I still want more from this team, and I still think I think I referenced Graham Potter yesterday as well. He had a really good start to his Chelsea career,
Mm.
and Liam Rosenior is going down exactly the same path. I think what is it, 5 games, 6 games now? Is this his sixth game, fifth game? One defeat, and that defeat comes at Arsenal. And to be fair, we didn't play our best football, but we still got a 3-2 out of it. So I don't think can we judge Liam Rosenior? Is it too early to say that Liam Rosenior has done enough to sort of convince Chelsea fans that he is the man for the job?
Yeah, it's a good comparison actually. Comparing him to kind of maybe Graham Potter's first month in charge, because I think he got back-to-back wins against AC Milan,
Yeah.
beat the likes of RB Salzburg.
Mm.
I think there was a couple other wins in there away to Palace as well. So he did start off really well, Potter. Then it kind of, when he got to that November-December period, I think the wheels came off and he
Mm.
he really struggled. So I think it's going to be really, really telling now when we approach this February, March period, and the fixtures do tend to get a bit harder. We do progress deeper into the Champions League. We do play the likes, I think, of Villa, Newcastle, and Arsenal in the league in March. It will get tougher. But yeah, big credit to Robert Sanchez, not just that save from Romelu Lukaku. But I think when we went 1-0 up, he made a few big catches and confident catches as well. I think he kind of managed to a few times. I think it was Di Lorenzo with those overlapping runs would always get behind the likes of Cucurella and Pedro far too easily, and
Mm.
which put a really dangerous ball in the box. And a few times Palmer managed to, not Palmer, sorry, Sanchez managed to just palm it away out of danger. So yeah, he's definitely improving, and it's good to see. Yeah, the Napoli goals, I do think some of them are maybe a bit avoidable lapses in
Mm.
concentration from the defense. I think Fofana maybe at fault for both goals, losing
Yeah.
his marker in Rasmus Højlund, and I think allows Vergara with the Maradona kind of pirouette
Yeah.
turn to get past him far too easily as well.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, overall, I think you can't complain too much when you've beaten a team that's gone unbeaten at home for over a year, and it's a good result. But again, having Rosenior maybe at the opening fixtures have been quite kind to him.
I think
But then
so.
again, you're happy when you look at it on paper, 5 wins out of 6.
Yeah.
And like you pointed out, the one defeat coming at against Arsenal, tough fixture, but we still have all to play for on Tuesday in the reverse leg.
Yeah, we really do. We really do. Last 16, it sounds good. Um, there was, I mean, obviously we Chelsea podcast, but Jose Mourinho and Benfica, I mean, to score in the way that they did, Trubin with the header, the last minute dagger for Real Madrid, which I think knocked them out the top eight. I think if I remember correctly, puts them out the top eight. But I mean, look, we've got. I think you might know this already. I don't have it to hand, but the teams that we could potentially face, I think is it
Yeah.
Newcastle, PSG? They
Yeah, so that's right. So we'll play either. So I think the draw is happening anytime now, actually,
yeah.
where we'll find out if we play. I think there'll be a draw to find out if it's PSG or Newcastle against one of Karabag or Monaco, and then we'll
Mm,
play the winner of one of those two games.
yeah.
So it will be a tough. I think we're going to be playing the winner of that game. We do have to remember that.
Mm,
So it could be Newcastle, it could be PSG, it could be Karabag. I mean, we know they did get humiliated against Liverpool, but they gave us a very, very tough game, and they
yeah.
have given a lot of other teams tough games across this Champions League campaign so far. But it could definitely be a lot worse, I feel. And like I said, at least we get to rest the squad during that February period and then start fresh again as of March in the Champions League round of 16. Going back to the Napoli game, though, we speak about him quite a lot, even though for the wrong reasons. But it was so nice to see Lukaku's face when Joao
Yeah.
Pedro
Yeah.
scored that second goal. And I know you had your son's birthday that day, but every time we would score, the camera would just show Lukaku's face, which was always, I don't know if the cameraman's a Chelsea fan or what that was about, but I
But
did like to see that. And Chelsea fans in Naples giving him the whole Chelsea reject chance as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nice to see that. But yeah, it's going to be a tough round of 16 either way. And like I always say, when you get to this stage of the competition, to be the best, you have to be the best. So if it is Paris, let it be Paris. If it is Karabag, Monaco, and Newcastle, let it be any of those three teams as well.
Mm. I'm going to ask you in a minute, but I feel like we need to avoid Newcastle. I just think those games where, I mean, I'd rather play Paris or Monaco, Karabag, but if you get Newcastle, it wouldn't feel like, for me, it wouldn't feel like a European clash. It'd feel a bit more like a
Mm.
Premier League game, and on their day, Newcastle can cause you problems. They're a physical team, so it's the team I want to avoid if at all cost. I mean, what about yourself? What do you think would be the ideal turnout for us in the last 16?
Yeah, I think ideal turnout would be probably a Karabag or a Monaco.
Mm, just
But
just
like you said,
lost
I
Paul
think
Pogba as well.
Paul Pogba's out as well now.
Yeah,
But Newcastle, I feel like you said, I remember watching some of their games when they played the likes of Paris. I think it was AC Milan and Borussia
yeah,
Dortmund in that group of death a few seasons ago. And St James's Park just looked like it was absolutely rocking on
yeah.
a Champions League evening. So it's going to be a tough and very tall order to go to play them in the Champions League, and they'll be up for it. They'll know they're the underdogs in that game. They've got nothing to lose. They're in Europe, whereas us, we've got history in that competition. We're going to want to progress. I think the expectations now for a team like Chelsea is to get to at least the quarterfinals.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I think Paris and Newcastle are definitely the team to avoid. And if the draw is favourable to us, and we can maybe play the winner, which could be a Monaco or Karabag. And I think we'll also find out which side of the draw we'll go on to
yeah,
afterwards
yeah.
as well, which could determine, our route to the final in Budapest, should we be fortunate enough to get there. But yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting draw. I think it's happening. I think it's kicking off in 5 minutes, I think. So maybe
Yeah,
when this podcast finishes or towards the end of the podcast, we'll know
we'll know.
um, who we might be playing.
Yeah, yeah. Right, let's see. Let us know your thoughts as well. When obviously when you're watching this, the draw will be done. So let us know who you think um, we should have hopefully got and who we have got, because you'll know by the time this comes out. But so final thing on Liam Rosino and his tactics for Champions League games. Do you feel like it felt like it worked a little bit better playing against Napoli? I can't really say the same about Paphos because I think we were expected to beat them, but I felt like the tactics worked for Liam Rosino more so in European football than it would against, I don't know, uh, a Burnley or a Fulham. It felt like the Premier League games that we've seen Rosino. I'm not saying that he struggled, but tactically, I felt like he got everything bar the getting substitution, everything spot on Wednesday night. It just felt like everything worked, tactically, even bringing on Badia Shill, at the end,
Mm.
going to five at the back and just seeing the game out, which we don't really get to see as Chelsea fans. That's where we normally concede our goals, the draws that we've had recently. But it felt like it worked a bit more tactically in Europe for Liam Rosenior.
Absolutely, it did. I'm going back to that Badiashile substitution. It is quite harsh on Gittins because he got subbed on and then subbed
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
But it does show a lot of courage for a manager to be able to do that and adapt. And obviously, he's playing for a win. He's not playing to please players.
Mm.
So I think it made sense maybe to go back to a back five and have a bit more of a defensive shape. And I think it's no secret now that we do struggle to break these low blocks in the Premier League, the likes of
Yeah.
Brentford, Burnley, Sunderland, Brighton. But maybe when we do play these teams that are a bit more fluid and playing with a bit more of a high line, which we've seen against Tottenham and Barcelona, where we played them and beaten them quite comfortably. It does suit these the Chelsea and the manager's tactics a lot more. Um, that being said, I think there was probably a moment, I think, end of the first half in particular, when Napoli looked really, really dangerous and we were
Yeah.
really, really struggling to defend, and that's when they got their two goals. But credit to whatever Rosenior said at halftime, because it did do the job, and we did come out firing. And you look at our two goals, kind of quick breaks from quick turnarounds, and we managed to get Joao Pedro almost with a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And that's something we wouldn't typically see, I think, in the Premier League match,
Mm.
because these teams would be playing such a low block and defending such a unit. But I think Napoli, probably in their heads, they knew that, like, they, especially when they went to 2-2, that they needed the win.
Yeah.
So it made sense for them to kind of commit so many bodies up the pitch. But yeah, good win, and hopefully we can kind of replicate that momentum in tomorrow's game against West Ham.
West Ham at home. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that surely. Cole Palmer. Let's move over to Cole Palmer, because Cole Palmer now, a lot of talk, and I worry about Cole Palmer a little bit, because I know he played well on Wednesday, and I said it in the week, but I feel like there is a bit more to this story now. The stories have come out over the last couple of days that Cole Palmer's homesick, that he's missing, his time up north with his family. He's traveling back and forth quite often because, again, he wants to be around his family and friends that he's grew up with. But realistically, I mean, 7-year deal. He's on good wages. He's deemed as, one of the irreplaceable players at Chelsea at the moment. I mean, what's the likelihood that we even entered? Say he, but Chelsea as a football club can even entertain a bid from the likes of Manchester United, who are debt ridden at the moment. Man City clearly probably wouldn't want to be in for him. So, is it a case of Cole Palmer just getting his head down, playing his football, and just hoping that things do, off the field, maybe get a bit better for him?
Absolutely. I think it's always going to be the case when a player is kind of in and out of the team, struggling with injury, maybe a bit more inconsistent with his form. There's always going to be murmurs and rumors that he's unhappy. He maybe wants a move away. And like you said, he is a Mancunian. He does come, I think, from Wythenshawe, which is just outside of Manchester. He does
Yeah.
travel up and down from Manchester to London to be closer to his family occasionally. But he is on a big deal. I think it's going to. I think Fabrizio Romano said. Mentioned yesterday in a tweet that all the kind of talk about him being unsettled is not true, and he's happy at Chelsea. And if Chelsea were to consider selling him, it would take I think a astronomical kind of fee or bid to even consider maybe looking to sell him. And I think there was other talks about there's 5 current players at Chelsea that are seen as untouchable, and I think it's Palmer was one of them, and the other 4 being Reece James, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and I'm missing one, Cucurella, I think it
Cucurella. Yeah.
was. Which kind of makes sense. I think maybe you could have put Colwell in that 6, but maybe being a bit more homegrown and currently injured, there might be, in a summer or a couple of years, there might be talks of us maybe potentially looking to sell him. But yeah, I'm glad maybe this talk now that Palmer's maybe back in the team, and maybe now Fabrizio Romano has confirmed it's kind of not true. We can kind of put that talk to bed. But I think when you've got a player of Palmer's caliber, there's always going to be talks about him being linked to a move away. I think it won't be just Manchester. I
Mm.
think maybe the likes of a Madrid, a Paris, a Bayern maybe come calling soon. We're seeing a lot of English players perform abroad now. So I think it'll be no surprise that maybe one of those kind of top European clubs kind of looks at Palmer and kind of sees it as a attractive kind of move. But yeah, hopefully we can just put that talk to bed now, because it was kind of infuriating me in the last couple of days,
Yeah.
especially like knowing that, he's only been here for 2 years and a half. It was only a few months ago where he finished, I think, sixth or seventh in the Ballon d'Or rankings. So yeah, hopefully he is kind of seen as an untouchable, and hopefully also for us, he can kind of rediscover that form once he overcomes these fitness concerns as well.
I think he's. I mean, look, I don't think any player for me is untouchable. I think if the right money's offered on the table, I think the club would have to listen. I mean, it would never happen, but if a club come in, a Saudi club comes in and says we'll give him 250 million for him, I think the club would have to at least entertain that. I don't think that would ever happen, but I don't think Cole Palmer can go anywhere. I think a 7 year deal locks him down till, you know, till he's close to his 30s. I think so. He's not going anywhere, and I think you're not. If the homesick thing is true and it is more about being homesick and wanting to be up north a bit closer, as I said, Man City aren't going to come back in for him. I don't think Manchester United are in a position. One, I don't think they need him. I think they've got enough cover in those areas, and two, I don't think they can afford him. So I do feel a bit harsh on Cole Palmer, because I remember when we signed him, he didn't want to come on a permanent deal. He wanted to go on a loan somewhere, and if I remember correctly, I think it was Pep that said that you've got to go on a permanent. We need you to be gone. So I do feel sorry for him in that aspects, but look, I mean, he's like I said, he's got to get back to playing good football and just getting himself back fit into the team, because I generally still think he needs surgery. I think he needs the surgery
Mm.
to whatever's going on with him. I know he played well, as I said, on Wednesday, but you can tell that there's still not something right about him, and maybe those things are playing in the back of his mind. Maybe the fact that he isn't playing, the best football. There's been a lot of talk around his name from Chelsea fans and pundits and whatever about his performances. So maybe that's all getting to him. Maybe he just wants to go home. And he is still relatively young. I mean, I'm trying to think back to my mind at that age. I mean, he's on a mega pedestal. He's the limelight's on him. So um, going from a young boy at City, where you can kind of maybe you hide away, you're in a development squad, to being one of the most important players at one of the biggest football clubs. It must be. I mean, you must at times feel like you're carrying the whole weight of Stamford Bridge on your back. So I do get it, but I think he's just got to get his head down, play his football, get his surgery if he needs it, try and get into that World Cup squad. Does Thomas Tuchel still consider him as an option? And just go from there. I think he's just got to get his head down now, and the one thing I don't like is the branding stuff. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
All of
I was
that,
going to mention that,
the
the
timing of that.
trademarking and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If you want to do it, it's fine. But I think do it outside of the season. Just do it at the end of the season, and just if you're bringing out sort of like clothing lines or whatever it is you're hoping to do, just do it outside of the season. Not Don't do it when you're not playing well, you're injured, and there's a lot of lot of noise around your name about you being homesick and wanting to move back up to Manchester. So that was the only thing I thought last week was a bit. I mean, the logo is brilliant, but the timing of it was a bit off for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I was about to mention the kind of trademarking celebration and that logo. The timing feels a bit off. If that was in the
Mm,
summer, post Club World Cup, you can maybe understand it. But given how the season's unfolded for Cole Palmer on a personal level, I think the timing was a little off, especially given all the murmurs and rumours around Manchester United and wanting a return to Manchester and being homesick. Actually, just some news that's just come out now is about the Champions League draw. Um, so I didn't know this, but the round of 16 draw hasn't taken place today. But Monaco are playing Paris and Karabag
ooh,
play Newcastle. So we'll play either the winner of Monaco Paris or the winner of Karabag Newcastle.
okay.
And I think Barcelona will play the other winner of the one we don't draw. But the round of 16 draw, so we'll only find out which winner we play. I think will only take place after the playoffs,
Okay,
end of
okay.
February. Um, but yeah, I mean Monaco Paris,
That's
obviously
a
an all
tasty
French
game.
tie. Yeah,
It's a tasty game. Um,
Benfica play Madrid again. Just
do you
seeing
know
this
what?
now as well.
My
Yeah,
mate's a Benfica fan, and I said, I
yeah.
guarantee you, they'll find a way to have that game played again, because it had everything, and I wouldn't be surprised if Truban does exactly what he done the last time and scores the 98th winner. But no, it'd be interesting. I think look, I mean, like you said earlier, you can only play what's in front of you, and if it is PSG, if it is Newcastle or Karabakh, then we just have to be prepared for whoever it is, and if you want to win the Champions League, you have to play tough teams. You have to play some lesser oppositions and just sort of get on with it. But Cole Palmer. I mean, let's sum him up. I mean, does he have opportunity to get himself fit now, get himself back in the team, linking up with Esteval and Joao Pedro, which looks like it's the triangle that we need going forward. Perfect opportunity next couple of games for him to hopefully do that. Surely he can get some minutes under his belt on Saturday against West Ham.
Absolutely. I also think, though, I think Rossini's been quite cautious managing his minutes, similarly to how Maresca managed Reece James's minutes last season.
Yeah,
So it almost seems like he plays one game, then misses out the next, and then maybe comes off the bench in the following game. I think he missed 2 games in a row against Paphos and Brentford. I wasn't even on the bench in either of those games. So it could be now that he played maybe the odd 20 minutes, half an hour against Napoli, he might not even appear in the matchday squad on Saturday and be rested, maybe potentially for the Arsenal
yeah,
game on
yeah.
Tuesday.
Good point.
I think he's such an important player that I would still include him on the bench, and he does kind of seem like he always appears in training photos. Um, Sorry, it wasn't Brentford. It was Palace. He missed out on. He played against Brentford and scored scored a penalty.
Yeah, I did.
Um, so yeah, Paphos and Crystal Palace missed both those games, but yeah, big kind of run of games coming up. West Ham, Arsenal in the second leg of the Carabao Cup, and then we've got
Leeds.
Leeds at home the following weekend. And those are games where you'd really want Palmer to be at his best to just kind of get some comfortable wins, particularly against those teams in the bottom half of the table.
Mm,
Um, but at the same time, I just feel like I look at Palmer sometimes this season, and his body language isn't the same as the one we saw last season. He looks almost a bit disinterested at times, and we mentioned it on our previous recording, but he's playing through so much pain. You can tell. I mean,
yeah,
that kind of compression strap he had around his thigh and his groin. Again, after the Brentford game, and he almost just fell down to the ground and was looking in so much agony. So if you can overcome those kind of fitness issues, and I kind of agree with you, it is the surgery that seems like it's the logical solution and
mm,
answer. But until then, he might just have to persist through it and maybe not play the full 90 minutes, or maybe play one game out of two or three. But in these type of fixtures that I listed, you want Palmer to be on the pitch and be there. And sometimes you almost feel like a Palmer that's maybe 60 or 70% fit, like we saw against Naples, can still do a very good job.
yeah. True, true. We'll have to see. Let us know what you think in the chat about Cole Palmer. Does he need surgery? Does he get on the plane for Thomas Tuchel? Let us know what you think in the comment section. From one ex-City player to another, Raheem Sterling, who this week had his contract terminated by mutual consent with Chelsea, which I think I've been saying for months. I think this was always going to happen. There was, I think back to the Ross Barkley contract termination. It was very similar, but on a larger scale. Right call from Chelsea, Theo, or was it something that we should have probably tried to engage and back in with the senior squad?
I think maybe they were just waiting to see what Rossinha kind of felt like, what he wanted to do with that bomb squad that included both Disasi and Sterling. But if I'm completely honest, they should have been sorted in the summer.
Yeah.
If he wasn't seen as being in the plans, if he couldn't get a move away, whether that was a loan or a permanent transfer, then we should have just terminated his contract in the summer.
Mm,
And I think he was very reluctant to go to Saudi. I think he turned down loans to Fulham and West Ham, or maybe we couldn't agree an agreement with the wages. And then I think you retweeted it yesterday. He's saying that he just wants to play his football anywhere, and it just contradicts what he's been wanting to saying previously. Now that he's a free agent, all of a sudden he wants to play football anywhere.
mm,
Whereas in the summer he was unwilling to go to Saudi, he was unwilling to go to the MLS. I think even Napoli were being linked to him, and
yeah.
Juventus as well. But I think he was comfortable maybe collecting another 6 months of wages, living in his big house in Cobham or Oxshott or wherever he lives. But yeah, it's kind of sad that it's ended like this, because the Raheem Sterling that was at his very best at Man City was an absolutely amazing player, and I think people forget how good he was when he was in his prime. And the Sterling we saw on loan at Arsenal, and maybe in his final season at Chelsea, just haven't been able to replicate that same level. But in his, I just want to thank him for his services as well, because he has kind of provided some good goals for us. I think there was a goal against Nottingham Forest, I think back end of the Pochettino season, that secured us um, a European spot. Goal against Dortmund in the second leg as well. But other than that, we still, like I said, it wasn't the same Sterling that we saw at
Mm.
City, that played for Chelsea. And let's see what happens next and where he ends up going. Because I think I saw today that I think Tottenham are wanting to sign him with their kind of all their injuries. And I think he'll be, I think, alongside maybe William Gallas, maybe the only player that would have played for Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham. So let's see what Raheem Sterling's future has in store.
I'm really sort of I won't say annoyed. It's not my money. I don't earn the
Mm,
club's money, but I just really frustrated. This could have been like you said, done in the summer. The fact that the whole thing of not wanting to leave London for X whatever reasons seems to now you've got 22 million pounds in your back pocket.
mhm.
That suddenly isn't a problem anymore. Now I will go to Saudi or I will go to Italy. So was it about wanting to be by your family, or was it actually because you want the money that you think you deserve, and rightfully so, or however you look at it? He's contracted, he's obligated to be given this money, whatever. So it is what it is. But I have to remember that you're contracted to do a job, and he wasn't doing that job. He wasn't fulfilling it.
Mm,
He almost kind of made himself out to be the victim, but there was so many options for him to do something about it in the summer. You just reeled off 6 or 7 clubs that would have taken him. And of course the wages was a big thing because he's on 325,000 pound a week. So of course Juventus aren't going to go and just pay all of that. But we even tried to do stuff. We tried to pay a proportion of it, or offer to pay a proportion of it, of his wages. So I just think from a selfish point of view, what transfers have we possibly missed out on because of the fact that we've got £325,000 on the wage bill last summer? Osimhen was a big thing for us. We
mm.
wanted to get him in. Now, if we didn't have him on the books at that point, does that then free up the money, free up the wages to then pay for Osimhen to come in? There's so many things I think about with this deal, and I just think look, Raheem Sterling is always going to be a Premier League player that has done amazing things in the Premier League. But for us, he never lived up to the expectations of
No.
why we brought him in, and that was the marquee signing of the blue code, the Todd Bowley era. He was a marquee signing. He was the big wages. Ex City, won the Premier League. Um, I think he was in like Player of the Years just before we signed him, or Player of the Seasons. He was one of the most decorated players in the Euros, I think, for England. The tournament before when we signed him. So he had so much expectation and should have been one of those that we keep talking about leaders in our team. Where's the experience? Where's the leaders? Well, he was one of them. He wasn't a defender, but he was one of those voices you wanted to probably hear in the dressing room. We never got to hear it. So I think he's been very selfish in this situation, knowing that he
Mhm.
could have terminated his contract 6 months ago to probably help the club. I think going to Arsenal ruined him. I think going there was probably the worst. He should have either gone to Saudi at that point rather than going on loan to Arsenal, because I think he played, I'm going to say 9 games for them all season or something like that. So um, I think that period of his career was where it was like there's no coming back from this. If you can't get into that Arsenal team at that point, because I think Saka was injured as well. If you can't get into that team, you're not getting back into this Chelsea squad. And I think that ruined. I think he should have took the Saudi money that was on offer, um, a season or two ago, and gone there, collected his money, and we could have Osimhen at the club now. So I think it's a selfish decision from Sterling, if I'm honest.
Yeah, his move to Arsenal, the loan move last season was an absolute disaster. I think it was just the one Carabao Cup goal for the whole season. I think it came against Bolton. Not too sure, but yeah, Osimhen could have maybe been a potential transfer. Mark Guehi,
Yeah.
last summer as well when Cole Hill got injured. I think wages were a bit of a blocker as well, and
Mm.
proved to be a blocker as well for some other clubs. But yeah, it's been a bit of a disaster move, and he didn't really live up to the expectations. And I think now that he's departed the club, every single signing we made in that first Blue Coast summer window in 2022 is no longer at the club. You look at Koulibaly, you look at
Yeah.
Zakaria, you look at Raheem
Aubameyang.
Sterling, you look at Aubameyang, you look at I think even Mudryk was signed in January, Joao
Yeah.
Felix was signed in January, Casadei, all these players, they're no
Amari
longer at the club.
Hutchinson. There's
Amari
loads. There's
Hutchinson, there's
loads.
loads, yeah. So I think maybe Blue Co. I'm not saying this is the right strategy, because I always say we need to be signing more experienced players. We need to be
Mm,
signing a bit of someone who's got a bit of European pedigree as well. But I think they're going to look back at that window and look at those players they signed, and not all of them were. I mean, all of them pretty much were disasters. So yeah, it's definitely a move we Chelsea fans won't look on fondly, and like I said, definitely a bad way to end. I think had things maybe ended a bit more amicably in the summer, and both him and the club have agreed to terminate his contract, get his move to Saudi. Maybe I think even West Ham or Fulham, London clubs might have been more tempted to sign him if he was a free agent as well. But given that didn't happen, this was the only kind of resolution to things in the winter window.
It's interesting because just looking on his so he hasn't even like most players when they leave a football club, the announcement comes out and automatically, you know, an Instagram post would come out from that player to say, thanks for, the
True.
support of the fans and all the rest of it. He hasn't posted anything. He hasn't posted a thing. So, and I'm not saying he must post something, but 90, I think even Ross Barkley posted something when his contract got terminated, and the likes of Danny Drinkwaters and all these players that just didn't have good moments, I suppose, or they didn't have the best of times at Chelsea, they still posted something and said, thanks for the fan support, or thanks for the opportunities, or whatever. He hasn't posted it. Money makes people turn into different people when they don't have it, and like I said, he's contracted. Chelsea stupidly gave him that money or that wages, that structure. So we've only got ourselves as a club to blame for that. But surely, as a football player at any age, he's not going to retire. He's going to go and get another club. Surely you'd want to be playing football you'd want to wake up every Saturday morning, and surely you must miss that buzz of match day, getting ready. Am I in the team? I've trained all week. He must miss all that buzz. Surely, I don't get it. I don't.
Mm,
It racks my brain. He's living out millions of kids, millions of men's, women's dreams, and all he's got to show for it now is his own academy and money in a bank and a big house. Is that the way he wants
mm.
to go out? I don't know.
I've got a statement here. It's Raheem Sterling has today departed Chelsea Football Club by mutual agreement, bringing to an end 3.5 seasons as our player, having signed in the summer of 2022 when he was transferred from Man City. And that's the big block of the statement. And then at the very bottom, in a smaller font, we have we thank Raheem for the contribution he made while a Chelsea player and wish him well for the next stage of his career. Very, very short, not really, talking about how many goals he scored with us, his assists, maybe a moment in particular that really stood out. So
Mm.
quite a kind of
Sounds like
abrupt and
sounds like both
direct
sides.
statement.
Like
Yeah.
Chelsea probably thought, you know what, let's just get rid of him. And he's even removed Chelsea out of his Instagram bio and everything. So he's clearly um, look, the best of luck to him. He's got, like I said, he's
Mm.
got his own academy where he's trying to bring through the next generation of kids, which is a positive thing. But yeah, if he goes to Tottenham, ooh, ooh, you don't cross the lines over there. But yeah, good luck to him. Whatever he does, good luck to him, and hopefully it works out for him. Whatever happens, and do you think? Final question. So, do you think, based on the fact we've now got this money off the wage bill, and I'm sure there's still FFP and the PSR compliance and all the rest of it, but do you feel like in the summer this might maneuver certain transfers a bit quicker now? We might be a bit more active in the summer now that we've freed up a bit of the wage bill.
Transfers, yeah, I definitely think that could be a possibility, but I also think there's a few players there's been a couple stumbles in terms of their renewing their contracts. I think Caicedo, Colwell, and a few others. And maybe now that we've freed, I think 325,000 off the weekly wages, that could potentially money we could potentially put towards maybe giving a player that actually merits it and deserves it if we want to
Mm,
renew their contracts.
yeah.
But yeah, in the summer, I do think there's a couple positions we might need to strengthen in. I think even Fabrizio said that we're still going to be very, very busy towards the end of this transfer window. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if there's one last twist that could happen on deadline day, and maybe
Jeremy.
Jeremy Jacquet. I think we're still going all out for him, supposedly. And I think that's the next player we're going to talk about, Aaron Anselmino. That could
Yeah,
also
we are.
be the
We are.
reason why we still haven't actually made that recall official. I think I sent you a WhatsApp the other day being like, Dortmund have tweeted it and made it official,
Mm,
but we still haven't officially confirmed that Aaron Anselmino has returned from
from Dortmund.
Borussia Dortmund to Chelsea. Same thing with Kendry Páez. It looks like he's been recalled and loaned out to River Plate, but we haven't
Mm,
made that official yet. So it seems like we're playing almost a lot of musical chairs with a couple of our loanies
mm.
um, during the last few days of the window before actually understanding maybe if there's going to be any further outgoings or any incomings coming in on deadline day.
You're probably spot on. I think maybe is it. Well, I mean, the Jeremy Jacquet, I think they've said if we do sign him, the likelihood and the expectation is that he'll stay where he is. He'll be loaned back to the club, and then he'll come and join us in the summer. So I would like to think we've got Aaron Anselmino back from Borussia Dortmund because there's opportunity to play him for us this season. I mean, I think he only played like 10, 11 games for Dortmund, but you can see the impact of what it meant to him to be there and what it meant for the players to have him as part of the club in Dortmund. So I'd be surprised if we record him back and he ends up at Strasbourg or he ends up at, somewhere else. Ideally, and I say this because I think Tosin is still going to be out for some weeks now as well. That leaves you with Trevor Chalobah, Wesley Fofana. We got to see Reece James midweek playing as a centre
Mm.
back. So it tells you that there is need for centre back cover in our team. And I think Aaron Anselmino, I'd be surprised if we loan him out. I really will. I'll be annoyed and surprised if we loan him out because I think why are we? I've said it in a week. Why are we chasing 60, 70 million pound central defender, 20 years of age, probably a very similar profile in Jeremy Jacquet when we've got Aaron and Slamino that we haven't tried or tested in the Premier League or in the League Cup, FA Cup. You could probably you might just do exactly the same job as what we need him to do. I think we should try and test him before we even think about bringing in another centre back who we're probably going to loan out somewhere else. Never see him. Kendrick Payas, we've been talking about him how long on the podcast, and it looks like we may never see him. He's now gone to River Plate. So I want us to stop buying players just for the sake of it. Let's see what we've got first, assess it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then of course go out in the summer and go and get a centre back.
Yeah, it's harsh on Aaron Anselmino as well because by the looks of those photos, he seemed very emotional when he
Yeah,
was saying goodbye to his Borussia Dortmund teammates. And I mean, I don't really follow the Bundesliga, but I do know that Dortmund's this club that has a huge, huge bond between the fans, the players, and the coaching staff. And he did play, I think, a few games, I think 10 or 11, like you mentioned, but he did do really well in those
yeah.
games he did start in. I think he was man of the match on his debut. And supposedly, this kind of abrupt recall from Dortmund to Chelsea has really kind of thrown a spanner in our relationship with Dortmund. I think their hierarchy is furious with Chelsea, given it was very very unexpected, and it means they need to kind of panic buy maybe in the last couple of days of the window to find a replacement. And for Anselmino as well, like it seems like he's been recalled now, and he might be sent to Strasbourg to another club,
Mm.
when in fact he could have maybe just stayed at Dortmund and gotten the minutes there. So yeah, a real shame. It just almost feels like sometimes these players' futures are completely out of their control, and now we're just kind of keeping him in this area, this limbo of not knowing where he'll be in the next few days as well. And it's almost like, okay, we might find a replacement, but if we don't, you'll stay. If we do find one, you'll go back on loan. Same thing with Disasi. I think he's in and out of the team training now as well. I think the latest news is he might be loaned out to West Ham as well. But I do hope that Anselmino can maybe cement himself as a first team player with Chelsea, because from what I have seen of him at Boca Juniors, at Dortmund, and I think those few games he played for us at the Club World Cup, he looks like a very tidy centre back with
Mm.
big potential as well. So probably a type of player you'd maybe trust more of a Badiashile as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and if we are to progress into far into the FA Cup, far into the Champions League, we do need an extra few bodies in defence, especially if Tosin's out for a while. Colwell will be out, won't be back until maybe end of the season. We're being forced at times to play Champong and James
Yeah.
as the centre backs. So yeah, it does make sense for us to have an Anselmino. But like I said, I would not be surprised if tomorrow evening we're hearing that he's been loaned out elsewhere or potentially even sold. You never know now with Chelsea. We could have maybe even just looked to sell him to kind of just cash in.
I
Yeah, I
think
was
you're
just saying
back.
that. It almost feels some of these players are part of like human trafficking at times with Chelsea, and
They are. No, joke about it, but you're right. I think yeah, it's difficult because I think a lot of them, they sign these deals probably with the expectations that they will eventually get their time at Chelsea. But we've got to see with a number of players now that you're not guaranteed that. You're not guaranteed an opportunity at Chelsea. You're guaranteed to have Chelsea on your CV, but it doesn't mean you'll be top of their list. So yeah, I mean we'll have to see. Very quickly on Axel Dizazi, who looks like he is going to be joining. I think Liam Mazzini has come out and said, this deal has to happen before Monday's transfer deadline for him to go somewhere because he just doesn't see him as a viable option in terms of our defensive options. But I, another one, that just hasn't lived up to the expectation um, of what we needed from him. And the question I'll ask: do you think he's only been brought back into sort of the fold into the training setup just so he can get up to speed with the team training and hopefully get him a move to West Ham, which is what it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah, I think we discussed this a few episodes ago. It might have been in that one that never got
Yeah, I
uploaded,
think it was.
unfortunately. Yeah. But it could be a question of, I think he was in a few of the training pictures ahead of when we played Paphos, and
Yeah.
it could very well be just trying to get his fitness levels up to put him in the shop window for a move, during the transfer window, or it could be maybe just seeing how he can adapt and whether he's an option for a senior, and whether he can maybe fill in for Tosin and Colwell while they're injured. But I think now that we've recorded Anselmino, for me that's an indication that Disasi doesn't maybe have a future this season or
Yeah.
next season at Chelsea. And like I said, it looks like West Ham are keen to take him on loan. So who knows? Maybe half time tomorrow when we play them at Stamford Bridge, we
Get
can
the
maybe
announcement.
negotiate something. Yeah, get the announcement. He might be wearing the Chelsea shirt and then at full time wearing the West Ham one. Who knows?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's sad to say this, but I can't wait to see certain players go, and we know who they are. You know, we have our own sort of ideas of who we want to see at the club and who we don't, or who we think isn't good enough to be at the club anymore. So, Dizazi again hasn't lived up to the expectation, but hopefully, can revive his career, whether it's at West Ham or somewhere else. But let's keep on the West Ham theme. 5:30 tomorrow. Wouldn't it be interesting if they do get those deals done today and they get the registration done and it's Raheem Sterling on the left for them and Axel Disasi at centre back? I mean, stranger things have happened, but West Ham come into this one with, I feel like they are coming into this one with a bit of form. They're building up a bit of
Yeah.
form now. They're getting some good momentum going with Nuno Espirito Santos, but we have to continue the same form in terms of the consistency. Tactically, Liam Mazzini's got to get things right. I feel like this game is one of those games that if we win, it almost gives us that confidence to continue going, especially into that League Cup semi-final against Arsenal. What's your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. I think when we beat Crystal Palace at the weekend, I think that was the first time we had back-to-back Premier League wins
Yeah,
since November when we beat Brentford and Crystal Palace consecutively. But can we make it 3 Premier League wins in a row? I mean, on paper, we should be beating West Ham. Like you mentioned, they've got a bit of more momentum and they've kind of rediscovered a bit of form under Nuno Santos. I think they beat, was it Tottenham
yeah,
2 weeks ago away from home, and then they beat Sunderland quite comfortably at home as well. I do remember when we played them, I think it was still Potter who was in charge at the start of the season in the reverse fixture, beat them very, very comfortably 5-1, and they looked absolutely atrocious defending set pieces.
mm,
But I think they have changed. They made a couple good January signings. I think
yeah,
they bought a decent guy from Lazio, if I'm not mistaken, and a few other players. They've got Adama Traore, who's a
yeah.
favourite
See,
of
yeah,
Nuno's as well. I think he used to coach him when he was back at Wolves.
yeah,
So it will be tricky. I think it's definitely a different West Ham side that we played back in August, and guys like Bowen, guys like who else do they
we've
have?
still got Callum Wilson there on the books. I know
Callum
he
Wilson,
was about to
yeah.
leave, wasn't he? But I think he's been someone who can come in and just change the game. He's almost like a super sub for them now, and he'll come in. He doesn't always score, but he definitely gets his chances, and I think he'll get some tomorrow night as well against us. I think he's a good striker, almost a traditional number 9, and he'll be waiting to pounce on any mistakes we make defensively at the back.
Absolutely, and they have centre backs like Kilman and Mavropanos. They're not the fastest, so if we can kind of like get Garnacho, get
Yeah,
Joao Pedro to show a bit of
Esteval.
pace, we can easily Esteval,
Mm,
exactly. We can easily get past them. But we know what's going to happen. West Ham will sit deep. They're
yeah,
going to target us from set pieces. They're going to look to frustrate us. Whereas Chelsea, we need to look to maybe score first, stay patient, defend dead balls properly. But then again, sometimes if we do score first, we see what's happened in the past, and we do kind of tend to give away our lead. Um, but yeah, hopefully, if we get an early goal, that will force West Ham to maybe be a bit more, a bit more attacking, a bit more offensive, and that will open up the game and kind of suit us a little bit more. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. I think obviously Chelsea West Ham is always going to be
bit of fire.
bit of fire, exactly.
Yeah.
East, west. But I'm quite confident going into this one. I do feel like if I was playing we were playing West Ham maybe back end of the year or earlier in this year, I'd be a lot more confident.
Mm.
But they're going to have a bit more momentum, a bit more confidence, and yeah. But let's hope maybe that midweek fixture against Naples hasn't fully fatigued the squad. Because if I'm completely honest, we can't afford to rotate too much. And I think it's going to be a very similar lineup, arguably that played against Napoli that will start
Mm.
at Stamford Bridge tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I wanted to ask you before we go on to our sort of predictions. The last time West Ham beat us at Stamford Bridge, I don't know if your memory is always better than mine. I
Yeah,
wonder if you could remember the score line and the goal scorer. I can give
yeah.
you, I can give you.
My
Yeah,
my
here
hands
we
are here. I'm not googling this, but I seem to remember this. It was, December 2019. We lost 1-0, and it was Aaron Cresswell who got the winner. Is
It
that right?
was. It was. Well,
Yeah.
it was. It says here November, so I'll give you
November, I think end of November,
end
yeah.
of
I think we just
30th of November it
30th,
was. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah, we just drawn with Valencia, so I was at
yeah,
that away game, and I think the next day I flew back and I went to that game. Um, yeah, I remember I was Lampard in charge, and I think they must have had Pellegrini, I think, on the bench
yeah.
for
They would
them
have. Yeah,
as their manager.
yeah.
So yeah, we have a good record against them.
We've got a
I think we
brilliant
beat
record.
them. Yeah, beat them 2-1 at Stamford Bridge last season,
Yeah,
and that
five
was
nil.
when we were 1-0 down, and I think that was the game I keep bringing up when DJ was playing at halftime. When we were 1-0 down, and then luckily we turned around in the second half. But yeah, we need to be winning against them. I think they do look like I mentioned, we can target their centre backs, maybe
Yeah,
their full backs as well, Wan-Bissaka. There'll be chances for us. But hopefully there's not enough fatigue in the squad. There isn't too much fatigue in the squad from the midweek fixture because it would have taken a toll on a few of the players, I reckon.
yeah, definitely. I think, like I say, Wolves are coming into Wolves. West Ham, sorry, are coming into this one with 3 games unbeaten. You know, they beat, like you said, they beat Sunderland 3-1 last Saturday, Tottenham 2-1. They won in the FA Cup, but they have had some really poor run of games before that as well. So this is a very inconsistent, and albeit yes, they've signed a couple of players since then, but we've got to win. I mean, Everton, I think are 10th, but they're 6 points behind us or something like that. So right, let's just double check that. So yeah, they're on 33 points and we're on 37 points. So it shows you how congested from 10th place to the top four is like literally where Manchester United are in the league, who are on 38 points, we're on 37. And at that point as well, we'll know the results have gone for particular teams in and amongst those European spots and who are chasing for European spots as well. So this has to be a game, especially going into that Leeds game, because Leeds is always a tricky game for us, and we got hammered when we went to Ellen Road, but we have to win that game more so because I think for me personally, I feel like is it Wolves? Have we got Wolves in between that Leeds game?
I think it's yeah. So we
We play
play Leeds
Arsenal
next weekend,
and
and
then
then
it's
I
Leeds.
think
Is
it's
it?
Wolves the following week, or is it a midweek fixture?
I thought
Uh,
I might be wrong, but yeah. Either way, we've got some difficult, which I on paper they look easy. I think we've got
Sorry,
West
you're
Ham.
right. It's Wolves. It's Wolves next weekend, and it's
Yeah,
Leeds midweek
that's
on
it.
Tuesday the 10th. Yeah.
Yeah, so they are winnable games. The West Ham, Wolves, Leeds are all winnable games. The worry is, and you just hit the nail on the head, can Liam Rosenior, and this is the question I'll ask you, can he afford to rotate the squad to the point where he can rest key players? In between all of that, you've got that second leg against Arsenal as well at the Emirates. So how's Liam Rosenior going to be able to maneuver and manage this team over the next 4 fixtures?
So yeah, I think it's going to be a big test for a lot of those players that might come in and fill in. But arguably, can you afford to drop a Caicedo, a Reece James,
Mm,
a Joao Pedro, who's in red hot form at the moment? Probably not, and they're going to want to play like almost every single one of those games you just listed at the
yeah.
moment.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is going to be difficult, really difficult. Let's go to my favorite part of the podcast. Let's go to the predicted lineup, our preferred lineup for this game. Um, so this is our squad that we used against Napoli midweek. And I think we both kind of or sort of just said that we think there'll be minimal or little change to this lineup. But just looking at it on screen now, obviously Sanchez is in goal, Malagusto right back with Reece James and Fafana as our centre backs, Marco Correa as the left back, Andre Santos, Moises Caicedo in the two in the midfield with Neto, that's Pedro Neto, Enzo Fernandez, and Esteban Willian on the right of the attackers with Joao Pedro up front. Can you see any? I mean, what changes would you make from Wednesday versus Napoli to West Ham 5:30 tomorrow?
I potentially put Reece James back out. right back and maybe bring in Trevor Chalobah
Mm.
alongside Fofana. Um, could it be a game maybe you rest one of Enzo Fernandez or Andre Santos and play Palmer in a 10 potentially? I think I always say this, but Enzo Fernandez plays almost or starts almost every single game. But
Yeah,
I think I'd still play him. I'd maybe play him alongside Caicedo, and like I said, I think this is a game where I'd play Palmer.
yeah.
And I know that I think Neto and Garnacho really struggle as the wingers to break low blocks. But maybe with their pace, can they get behind the likes of a Todibo, a Mavropanos, a Kilman, a Susek potentially? So I would
Mm.
play potentially Neto and Garnacho. And then do you keep do you keep Esteval ready for next week against Arsenal? Maybe.
You're resting Esteval, or you playing him?
I think I would. I think he started the last 3 or 2, I think, so I would maybe rest him.
And you bring
And
in
I know
Garnacho.
I'll bring Garnacho.
Okay.
I'll bring him in, but I tell you what, he almost messed things up for us against Napoli. Um, and that last chance where, I think he owes Sanchez, a nice dinner out because
Yeah, he,
it was just one of those moments where you just want whoever has the ball just to boot it up the pitch, but
yeah,
instead
he
Garnacho
doesn't.
tries to dribble it out and the player is in danger. But yeah, I think I would go with that lineup.
Mm.
And then maybe against Arsenal, do you rotate slightly more and maybe play like a Hato and a Champong or maybe even a Marquis or a Delap? But I think in the league now, we need to get 3 points, and we can't afford to drop points in this type of fixture.
It's tough, isn't it? Because I feel like when I watch Neto, the last couple of games I've watched Neto, I don't think he's been as influential as he should be in the games.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I mean, like, I'm thinking back to Neto at the Club World Cup, who I thought was probably one of our best players throughout the whole tournament. Um, I just don't know. I don't know. I think I would probably bench him. And this is me obviously doing it. What we should have said is we're doing this before the press conference. I think is taking place at 1:30. So as we're recording this, Rosinia hasn't given us any updates on any sort of team news. So um, I'm sure this may change based on that discussion this afternoon. But I think I would bring in Esteval. I agree with your Garnacho theory. I do think if you're looking at maybe a Wan-Bissaka, who I think will be trying to drive forward a lot with the ball, um, same on this side as Somerville, I feel like you're going to need some form of creativity. And I think Esteval is that player. It's interesting if Cole Palmer can. I'd love to see him play 90 minutes. I don't think he will. I think maybe you do give him 60 minutes. You give him, the 45 and give him, I don't know, 15 minutes of the second half or whatever. But I think now I want to see this. I want to see, and I mentioned it earlier, the triangle, which I think is going to be Joao Pedro, Cole Palmer, Esteval, all linking up and doing what we know they can do. Linking up and playing balls through to Joao Pedro because he's in form. And I think it'd be a shame not to try and build on that momentum for Joao Pedro. Probably playing the best football of his Premier League career so far. So I would go with that lineup. But again, I'm not against yours. I just think I think Esteban has to be. Esteban feels like the new Cole Palmer of this season. He feels
Mm,
like the player that you
mm.
have to have in the team in order for things to click and work going forward. So that's my reason for it. But I'm not against Neto being it neither.
Yeah, I think you made a good point about Neto. He hasn't been relatively ineffective in the last few games, and I know a few Chelsea fans were vocal about in the box at one point for Joao Pedro
Yep.
early on in the Napoli game as well. But what I do like with Esteval, he just seems to want to always take on the player
Yeah.
that he's
This is it.
facing. He always wants to seem to drive the ball up the pitch, whereas occasionally with Neto, you see him passing the ball backwards
Yeah.
at times.
Yeah.
But hopefully Esteval can be that player, like you said, that maybe means we don't miss Cole Palmer as much when he isn't in the team. Uh, but yeah, I think whether it's Neto, Garnacho, Esteval, it might even be Gittins. You never really know with lineups
Yeah.
nowadays. And um, I really hope they can just like take the game to West Ham, really, really kind of give Wan-Bissaka, Mavropanos, Todibo, Kilman, whoever it is, a miserable night.
Yeah.
And yeah, a few players I'm seeing there. Fernandez, who scored a brilliant goal against
Brilliant goal.
Sunderland. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tati Castellanos, who was the guy who they signed from Lazio, who's looked like quite sharp since he's come in as well.
Yeah.
And I always say this when we play West Ham. I think they've probably got the tallest team in the Premier League. They've
Suchek.
got a few, Susek in
Yeah.
particular.
Yeah.
Panos, they've got a tour team, so, play with that same kind of momentum and that same kind of, ability from Rosenior to adapt things in game, then, I hope we can get the 3 points.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will. I think, like I said, we it's not a think, we must, because if we don't,
Mm,
we could end up Sunday morning waking up, we could be ninth or 10th in the league. It's that close for the spots between 10th and 4th. So, finally, before we wrap up, score prediction. What are we going for? I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think this could be a 1-0. I think this feels like a 1-0
mm.
to Chelsea. It feels like a really um, scrappy goal, with West Ham getting a lot of chances and Sanchez pulling us to safety a couple of times in the game. But I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, it's a good prediction. I think we'll concede, unfortunately, but I do think we'll score a few, hopefully. I think it'll be like a bit like the Palace game. Maybe we'll be 2-1 up and 2-0 up and give away a sloppy goal, but I'm gonna go 2-1 Chelsea. So,
Yeah,
identical result to this fixture last season when we beat them 2-1 at Stamford Bridge.
yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. I will definitely take it. But let's hope we win. That's the main thing. 3 points. I'll take a 1-0. I'll take a 2-1. I don't really care. We just need to keep. I mean, there's some really good, tasty fixtures this weekend, albeit after our game, there's Newcastle, Liverpool, which again will have impacts to the top four for us as well. Ideally, a draw in that game would do us a favor. But Theo, as always, thank you very much. Pleasure as always. Friday afternoons are about doing the podcast. So, of course, thank you very much for joining. Um, and all the rest of it. Enjoy the game. I'm sure you'll be there. You might need to
Cheers.
borrow the heated jacket 5:30. It's done me wonders on the podcast. But enjoy the game. We'll have the match review of the game afterwards as well, versus West Ham. Hopefully with a smile on my face. So make sure you hit your notification bells for all of that. Linktree link is also in the description. Again, if you're listening on Spotify, you can also rate this podcast out of 5. So make sure you hit the 5 stars on the podcast. And until the weekend, enjoy it while you can, and we'll be back next week.